Hi folks, I'm Joel from Agility. Today I want to show you the authoring experience that Agility provides. Agility gives a great way for you to build a website and then hand it off to a marketing team. And if you're on that marketing team, you should be able to do all kinds of things in Agility without needing a developer to get involved. Create pages, create content, create all kinds of things, edit whatever's in there, and you should be able to get a what you see is what you get inline live editing experience. I'm going to show you that in two different things. I'm going to show you in a trial account. So look in our starter, let's take a look at what's in the starter and you get that out of the box, and we'll put a link in the description so you can actually try that out for yourself right now. And I'll also give you a sneak peek into how we do it in our website to show you the bespoke way that you can create different content models that define what kind of content is important to you and your organization. Let's dive right in. So here we are. I've created a trial account using our starter. So I went in through the website, agilicms.com/free, created a starter account, and it's got a bunch of stuff set up there. Let's go full screen on this so we can get the full effect. And the place I like to start for showing the authoring experience is what's called Web Studio. Web Studio gives you this side-by-side editing experience that shows you a preview of the site that you're in and lets you edit the content on the right and gives you this great experience for kind of digging into the content. So if I want to edit, for instance, if I wanted to edit this little headline about us here, I just click on the little pencil and that takes me right over to that. And I'm going to get this live editing experience. So about, my company, whatever it is that you want to type in there. And it's really nice because I don't have to click save or anything. It just shows me what's going on. I get the same thing when I'm working with images. If I wanted to change this image that's here, I just pick another image, change that, and then it's going to actually show that over here. So it's a really nice kind of what we call live editing experience that you get when you work with that content. And if I want to open up something different or just kind of move around the site, I can click on different pages and it's going to follow that along over here. So if I want to change this content, just click into it and I can change that over here and get that really nice experience of kind of navigating around the site to find it. One of the things that's really hard in a lot of CMS systems is just finding your content to then work with it. So this is a really nice way to work with page-based content. And if I just go over here, I can actually hover over this and see all the different pages in my site that are reflected in the navigation actually in the UI. But so I can actually move around to see these different things and work with them. And if I'm working with a list, I can actually go into the content area and jump into there. And you can see there's not a whole lot that's in the trial site in the starter account, but I'm going to do a sneak peek right now, and I'm going to jump into our website that we use and that I work with sometimes here today. So we call our list of blog posts, and you can see we've got lots and lots of blog posts that are in there. Let's go into one of the ones that I've worked on over the last time, and this was something called the incremental approach, which was a story that I've been writing and releasing sort of part by part. So you can see here we've got a lot of different fields that are on here that are not necessarily part of a default blog post. We have our H1 field that can be slightly different from the meta title, so you can override that. We've got a URL field here that's the slug, and then you can see we've got all of our fields defined on different tabs. So we've got all kinds of different stuff set up in here, and it's really easy for us to work with this content to set up the images for our posts. So everything is stored and coming from our list of assets that's here. So we've got all of our assets that we can search through to work with in here. All of our content for these ones, this content happens to be in rich text. So this one's not quite ready to go out yet, but you can see, been working on this in rich text and kind of getting it all laid out. And then even when you're working here, I can click preview, and this is going to open up over into Web Studio now and actually show me what this looks like. So it takes a second to load, but here you go. Now we can actually see what this would look like and see the difference of how things work, when you're working in the content itself. And so I've got that, this sort of the content that's over here and then the preview of it over there. So that side-by-side preview is really nice. And I can actually open it up in a new window as well. If I want to just work in a different tab, I can do that as well. And that'll show me this whole thing. And then I don't have any sort of interruptions on my screen. So a lot of different ways to work with your content. Just jumping back over to here, let's look at let's jump back now and actually look at the editing experience inside the editor itself, okay? So inside the editor, I've got basically a rich text experience that I'm working with over here. So it's kind of what you see is what you get inside here, but I get to do a lot of different things. We can do all kinds of different formatting that we have, and even have CSS formatting that's inside there. So you get to set up your experience of how you want to work with rich text as all the different things that are there. And if I want to turn some things into headings or paragraphs, I have very similar editing experience to something like, maybe Google Docs or Microsoft Word if you're used to that. So you can do all of your formatting, but it doesn't give you everything. You notice that I don't have a lot of choice of things like fonts or stuff like that. Now, that choices are there, but they're kind of buried under a menu. So unless you really want someone to be changing fonts, then that's not too obvious how to do that. So you can be a little bit dangerous with what you do. And if you're really experienced, you can actually edit the code view of this. So I can actually see the code for what's coming through here and actually work with that HTML. So you have a lot of different ways to work with it at a really high level in a WYSIWYG approach, or I can dive right into the HTML and see what's in my rich text editor field. I'm going to show one more demo of a slightly different editing experience that a lot of folks are starting to use, and that's using something called the block editor. So here we are. I've switched over to our docs site. So our docs site is agilitycms.com/docs, and it's really interesting because it uses the block editor instead of the HTML editor when we want to have long form content. So let's just actually look at one of these articles here that's in the documentation site. So here's the introduction to Agility. And of course, it's got some similar fields, but they're slightly different. So these are set up specifically how we wanted to do these. And then you can see here, we've got this block editor. And again, we can still do preview and all those different things, but now I've got a much slightly more streamlined approach, and I don't have as many options, but it's really nice to work with. I can basically add any kind of block that I want, and I can do a raw HTML block if I have that in there. I can drag and drop images and put that on there, but I don't have the ability here to edit the raw HTML of this, and I can't change as many things. I can't change the fonts, so it's a little bit trimmed down, more streamlined editing experience, and a lot of folks really like that. And if I do want to put an embed, for instance, this is an embed that's coming from YouTube, I believe, or actually this is from Vimeo, then I can see that there. And we can still preview this, so let's actually preview this in a new tab to see what this would look like. So it'll load up the preview for us, and it's going to show us exactly what that looks like there. So you've still got, the same kind of preview that you want to do and see everything that you're doing. And I can still create all this stuff as an editor, but it's a slightly different editing experience based on the content architecture and the content modeling of the site. And that's going to be wholly based on your preference as an editor. So when you're building out your Agility site, make sure that actually works for you. And I think it's really important for the marketer and the authoring experience for that marketer, or potentially the non-technical person who's going to be working with this. You shouldn't have to learn any code, and you shouldn't have to get a developer involved if you just want to do regular things inside your CMS.